All right, what's going on, everybody? Let me know if everything's working fine. You can hear me. It is Wednesday, November the 5th, 2025. Got some earnings to go over today. Got Robinhood, IonQ, AppLovin, AMC. We got Qualcomm, ARM, Snapchat, Figma, Elf. All coming in right after market close. Got about 40 minutes or so. So, let's get to it. Oh, there we go. There's Max. What is good?
What's up?
There we go. All right. Chat, go ahead, say hi. I see 5 of you guys watching right now. I'm sure some more people will join in. Let me know. Somebody said, C4 says you're part of the notification squad. Let me know. You got notifications set up so that you can join on this every Wednesday? Love to know. Okay. Oop. There we go. Back to our STAX. So let's jump into it. We've got a good couple of tickers to go over, so let's just kind of browse through them so far. We got Robinhood coming up. Robinhood is pretty high up in terms of price right now. 140 or so. It has, it's near all-time highs at this point. Nothing too major in terms of today. We do have these puts that came in for the 137 put, and then we also have the 155 calls. About even in terms of how much premium they've spent, but these puts for 1121, 125, that definitely is a possibility. I will say though, Robinhood's been doing pretty good in terms of, new platforms or new things that they're offering on their platform. So I think they might be one of the ones where whatever news they do release could be able to help them out. I've had this on my chart for a little bit. I think we're near a top 4 Robinhood at this point. PE ratio 74. They continue to innovate and add things. They've got their prediction markets. They added Robinhood Gold and Robinhood Legend, and so offering credit cards and all. They've done a lot of things to add to their bottom line. But we will see if this right here, the 154 is going to be the top of this or not. We haven't exactly seen a full selling or a full buying climax, I would say. But it is possible that this could be the beginning of it. Yeah. It could be bearish for this quarter. Bearish for Q3. Basically this would just be like set up like that would be my expectation. We would find some sort of range to build on in here. I would say we'd probably build in this range and chop around. So maybe we might peak up above it. Maybe we might come, if it does show any sort of weakness, we might come down and peak down below it. So I would say those stacks, the calls and the puts are kind of right on point in terms of aiming for above and below. Let's add into it with Wave X. Wave X does look more bullish than bearish. I'll give you that. Definitely have more bulls in here than our bears. Okay. So, and that flipped right here. Flipped about an hour ago. It was kind of back and forth, but more calls were sold, but they started to get back into those calls pretty heavy. We are seeing this go up. So Hood would probably be one of the ones I would say, I would like to be on the bullish side of this. But I will point out right now, I think Max would agree with me, markets are a little bit hesitant. Okay, markets are being a little bit hesitant right now. We do have a lot of these other macro events that are kind of on the table that are just keeping things at bay. The first thing I would say is government shutdown still hasn't quite, determine what's going to happen. Apparently, we're getting close to it because basically the airports are about to shut down. We're about to be, ground all our flights if, in this case, we can't come to some sort of budget resolution. That's usually been the main push or the first push that really gets people to gets them to start making some moves and get them to come to some sort of resolution. The second thing is that with the government shutdown, we don't have any economic data, so the Fed is going to be flying blind at this point if we do get to that point, and they will have to make some big decisions without the proper data in front of them. Then we also have geopolitical tensions. There's been hints at Venezuela and other, us potentially getting into some sort of armed conflict in those situations. The thing that did relieve some pressure recently was just that the China trade tensions and the trade war in terms of tariffs has been relieved a little bit. It came to a temporary 1-year agreement with them. But on the other hand, too, the tariff situation is that the Supreme Court is supposed to be setting a ruling, and I just saw that there was like a 40 or 50% chance that the Supreme Court was going to uphold the tariffs, and now it's dropped to about like 18% or less. So there's a chance that the tariffs might be ruled to be completely unconstitutional, and therefore there'd be about $1 trillion on deck to potentially be refunded. But you got to keep in mind, all this economic impact that we've had is here to stay. So, they threw a wrench in everything, messed everything up. At this point, whether or not markets will take that as a positive or a negative, I'm really not too sure, to be honest. Taking off the tariffs should be technically a positive thing, and returning all that money to and refunding that money would technically put all that back into the system for for those businesses and people to spend. But it also creates another set of uncertainties when it comes around to how the U.S. operates and whether or not you can trust the things that are happening with us. So I'm kind of split on that, whether or not that's going to be good or bad for the markets, especially. But it's starting to look like November very possibly is going to be a red November. We do have a lot of fear coming in, and fear and greed gauge is at extreme fear at this point. In addition to, I will say, I had this charted out for our Discord most recently, and you can kind of see my expectations have just been that we're going to go and kind of chop around, fill the gap. I predicted we were going to gap up today. We did gap up, but it was a very small gap for today for our gap up. But I basically predicted we'd come down, fill some of the gaps. We ended up doing that. We gapped down to do that. And then we would come down here to fill the lower gap that we've also created too, and come back up to fill the upper gap. So we're really just chopping around back and forth. Interesting thing as well too, we saw AMD report, and AMD did drop after earnings, but then actually recovered quite nicely in the morning, pre-market and through the morning. But it did come right up to this gap that it had from previous, and we'll see if this ends up holding or not. Their numbers were good, but Max and I were discussing how expectations for tech is extremely high. If you've seen some of our previous videos and things that we've been discussing, the expectations are super high. Valuations are way out of proportion compared to what revenues stand at. So at the end of the day, if we look at these situations, that if these companies are not able to live up to those expectations, you will very likely start to see some of these sell off. And so I'd be careful with AMD. Even though AMD did report good things, they had great things to say on their earnings call, we kind of are right at this area, and you can see this is called the point of control, this big orange line coming up here, showing that the majority of buyers and sellers are actually standing at this point. And so if we break up above, it can act as support. But as of right now, I would probably say AMD kind of looks like it's a prime candidate for a potential short right now. I think it'll come back down and possibly retest some of this move that just came back. But yeah, it is up 3% as of today after a pretty decent little drop yesterday after their earnings. But same with SPY. SPY broke out of this channel that I've got drawn over here. We've been in this channel since basically April. We've had a few tests of below, but after the April tariff tantrum, we bounced right up into this area, and we've just been in this consistent channel grinding our way up. We did have another little drop here at the beginning of October when we had additional scares with tariffs and things like that. We recovered right back into the channel again. And as of right now, we are only about 1 to 2% away from all-time highs. And we're seeing some extreme fear in the markets, which is kind of unusual, you might imagine. Usually at this area, you would actually be seeing, euphoria. You'd start to see greed up in these areas because we go up, we keep going up, all the dips are getting bought. But my prediction right now and my sentiment is giving me, a little bit of caution, even though we are in a situation of extreme fear, and that generally does signal a potential buying area. The fact is that the revenues of these big companies and the market breadth, meaning the difference between the top companies and the bottom companies, continues to grow bigger and bigger. Basically, like the S&P 500 is being carried by the top few companies. So, I think it's very possible for us to come back, retest this trend line. If you were to draw and give me the 50-day moving average, I think it's very possible we come back down to retest that. And that's this yellow line, I believe, right here. Let me make sure that's the number. Yeah, the 50 is my daily 50. So a daily 50, I think we come right back down around here to test. So 664, 665 is probably where I think we could see the next test coming down. So I'd be careful with the markets overall and with SPY. It seems like we're highly overextended to the upside right now, and that any sort of fear or scare to the markets would probably cause us to drop pretty quickly. But keep in mind too, even with that, that's only like a 2% drop. Okay, 2% drop. The indicator I just added here is the Bollinger Bands and moving average daily lines. The one on the right over here is my VRVP, visible range volume profile. I think some people said it's only if you're paying. Visible range volume profile. Depending on what version of TradingView that you have, I do believe that I pay for one of the upgrades. I only need so much, but it helps to have a couple more indicators up on here. All right, let's see, back into it. Our other ones we got to go over today, we got IonQ coming up. This one ran up like crazy alongside with all the quantum names. It is starting to look like it wants to come back down, to be honest. If they are able to report good numbers, which is definitely on the table, but I will point out to you guys, if you guys can look over here on the financials for it. Look at these quarterly net margins for this. Negative 330%, negative 423%, negative 1,725%, negative 426%, negative 854%. So like, yeah, I mean, it's the next hype for, where money's supposed to flow. Like, obviously, semiconductors did that most recently throughout COVID and throughout everything. We saw the run up for and demand for semiconductors go crazy. But the next thing was quantum, and quantum's had this great run up as well. If you look at IonQ from 2020, end of 2024 till now, it's almost basically 10x'd. At this point, it's dropped a little bit, so let's say 6x'd from there. But it's starting to have that look of the market psychology, market cycle. I always bring this one. I always go to Peloton for this chart just because it's been stuck on here. But oh, I already did have it on here. So we are looking like we are up in this euphoria range, and we might see a little bit of a move back up, but what this area is called is considered complacency, where we might, maybe this earnings does give it some hope, but then we might see it come back down. So that would actually be my prediction for something like IonQ. Max has voiced his, his concerns and his opinions about quantum over and over, and it's just really the fact that a lot of these companies need to prove themselves. It's no longer a situation where they can just say the buzzword over and over and expect to be valued at those high levels without any sort of real revenue or without any sort of real real proof of what they're worth. And if you take a look over at our STAX flow, especially here today, well, today we just have these for the 21st. They're aiming for it to drop to 47 or lower by the middle of the month. A lot of these are aiming for, so it's already dropped from 60 down to 55. These ones would be the unusual ones by Friday, expecting it to hit about 40 or lower. If you wanted an earnings gamble type of situation, I would kind of peek at this and understand they are expecting it to fall in this situation. Now, WaveX is a little bit more mixed right now. Okay, WaveX, as of right now, shows that we do have a lot of bearishness on the chart, but we also have, calls. Oh, sorry. The bearishness, they sold off on a lot of these puts already. So the puts have been sold off, but the calls are not exactly up above zero. Okay, so I've always told you guys, when I see both of the green and the red line down below zero, it's showing that they're taking more of these, I would say, more defensive type of positions, selling off their calls, selling off their puts. There's no real clear direction as to what IonQ wants to do right now. The only thing that we have to really go base ourselves off of is this one print that came in today, aiming for down below 47, $1.81 for these, these contracts. So I mean, if you want to take that type of a gamble, I would definitely say I'm still expecting IonQ to be negative in terms of their return, their net margin. They're definitely not in the green at this point. So ultimately, that would be, they're continuing to lose money, and the markets are not going to react favorably to that. Okay. Thank you guys in the chat for helping me answer some of those questions. I'm going to try to get to as many of these before market close so we can get to it. The next one we got is AppLovin. All right, AppLovin. It's pretty interesting. I had one of my basketball players. His dad is extremely bullish on AppLovin, and this was like last year, and we've seen App jump quite a bit because he uses it and has a lot of clients that use the platform. And basically, he was telling me how their AI. The AI was going to help them increase their ad revenue, and it's about to skyrocket because of it. And it was fairly true, to be honest. Now that we're up in these higher levels, though, it's trading at the 600 range. The only thing we see today is some puts being bought, $326,000 for the 550 strike. So that's a 10% move expected to the downside. But keep in mind, too, yesterday, we did see some unusual calls aiming for 800. 800 by next Friday. So that's kind of, that's a 30% move from where we're at right now. That's kind of nuts when you consider it. Let's go ahead and take a peek over at what we see on our charts. So what has me a little bit hesitant is the fact that we do see this giant volume candle down here right as we approach this top, right? That doji candle coming back down. This is on the weekly. Obviously, if they're able to report great revenues and blow their earnings out of the water, we could definitely see this come back up toward that above 700. And so, but overall, let me peek over at this. You know, PE ratio out of 93. It is fairly high up there. You know, expectations for a lot of these tech companies are high. So the question is, are they going to be able to deliver on those expectations and that promise? Max, what do you think about AppLovin? Are you bullish or bearish on that right now?
I haven't really been paying too much attention to them. I've been more in just like looking at, I'm still trying to build out a quantum position right now. So that's like really been my primary focus. But even then, I have that down to like maybe 2 companies I'm actually looking at in terms of like realistic expectations. I just know AppLovin's I think its advertising revenues are a big thing, right?
Mm-hmm.
So it's like right now, the whole ad tech industry, Snapchat kind of put it in a chokehold by lowballing people for 2 years. So a lot of companies, including Meta, their ad revenue has not necessarily been what it should be. Because if you have ad revenue as a part of your annual reoccurring revenue, it's typically like minimum 20% of what is going to add to your bottom line. So unless those margins steadily increase over time, then it's always going to be kind of a toss up with those kinds of companies, because even if they report good numbers for the current quarter, if they don't have solid numbers going into the next, like into their fiscal year, then that shows people are losing faith in the platform from a ad spend perspective, because um companies have particular vendors that they'll go to and that they spend money with, and if you perform better, obviously they spend more money with you. So it's really going to come down to like what kind of returns are they able to give clients versus like the exposure that they're getting via payments. Are they in a pay to play system like Twitter, for example, where the more you pay, the more exposure you get? Or is it more of a meta type of system where it doesn't really matter how much you pay, it matters more about the engagement and like what kind of keywords you're targeting and all the little nuanced things that, quite frankly, most of these companies don't understand when they're buying in the first place. I think a big thing for them will be an AI narrative, because that is where a lot of ad tech is shifting to. It's like AI stuff to help people make better ads, better targeting decisions, and all that kind of stuff as well. So really, that's really where I'm at with anything that's in ad tech right now. Granted, I have a little bit of a bias because I used to work in that industry. So I have friends that like will hit me up and ask me questions about what I'm seeing for certain stuff. Um, so yeah, I for them they're a little stressed out. Let's just say that much when it comes to how that whole industry is moving right now. For a company like that though, I'd probably play the post move. So like versus trying to play into it, play the after pop, because that's when retail and hedge funds will actually take a solidified decision here.
Yeah. Yeah, I like that. I mean, I will say there is some bullishness in this chart. Um,
Yeah.
it's bounced off of filled this gap from here, which is great to see. You did technically have another gap that that existed there. It filled it, bounced right up from it, um, and I will say their net margin. I mean, compare this to what I just showed you with IonQ. AppLovin's making a net margin of 61% as of last quarter. So that's a strong margin to have. All right.
Yeah.
So, if they can continue to keep that, if it goes higher, if they are showing how much money they are making and it is increasing, I definitely could see this break up above this little wedge that we have, retest this 658 range, and then potentially come up back toward above 700. The question is always going to be, especially if you're playing options, when is that going to happen? But I would say if they're able to report good numbers, they have an earnings beat here. maintain that net margin, I think they should be doing just fine, to be honest. Let me get to the one everybody wants to know. Everybody wants to know Snapchat, because we've been in this one for quite some time. It's really just chopped around. It came down to the lower end of exactly where I had charted of now. I will say it's, it's been struggling. It's definitely been struggling. But the thing about this is that there are some signs of some bullish reversals coming. Coming down this far right before earnings and testing this area of supply and demand. I'm still fairly optimistic for this. I'm still in my positions for it, holding on through it. And I will point out today with our Snapchat, so we do have this one, 500K being spent on this $8, $7 to $8 stock is quite a bit, to be honest. 500K here on calls, $424,000 in calls right here. This one being such short term, they're aiming for $8 and above, so about an 8% move up. Otherwise, this guy's gonna lose his 500K right away. Okay. The other thing that's kind of good to see, I'll drop back down below today, but we did see Snapchat with a bunch of calls being sold off. It came back up, flipped to bullish about an hour or so ago. It's come right back down, showing that they've sold off some of those calls potentially going into these earnings. And the stock price continues to go a little bit lower, but that could, kind of like a bow and arrow rubber band, stretching as far as down as it can before it possibly heads back up. So Snapchat, I'm still bullish on it. I will, caution you guys. There is a possibility that, they don't report great numbers compared to what was expected, and it could go lower. But I still have my Wyckoff accumulation chart for this, basically stating that if we give this enough time, we will see this head up higher. And that's more so on the bigger picture of what's going on with Snapchat. We're in exactly a perfect buy zone as well. So this is where big money has been accumulating. And once we see that impulse move, it could be this month, it could be the next earnings. We'll see what happens. But as of right now, this is where I set my probability to say, hey, the risk to reward here is definitely worth the squeeze. Okay. The other one that everybody's asking me about is Lyft. Lyft, instead of it being at the bottom where Snapchat is, Lyft is at the top of the range. And it still has, it's just like a lot of stocks right now. It's chopped around, but it's made its way back down to where the resistance is, gathered a little bit more energy. So, with good numbers, I do believe we should see this up higher as well. Their net margin's not the greatest, but they do have a lot of stuff in their pipeline in terms of, again, autonomous vehicles and, things for, our future of cars. Lyft is definitely in that conversation along with it. It took a bit of a drop alongside with Uber, which, we were bullish on Uber through the earnings. They did report positive numbers, actually really good numbers, but they dropped. Uber, I think, is still poised to recover from this area. You just got to give that one time. Snapchat's dropping, but I'm not too worried. Like, I would rather it do this and then report comes out better than expected, and it'll recover. So, I mean, it is dropping. I'm not getting out of this before. All right. What else? Qualcomm and ARM. We also got Figma. We'll take a peek at that. Qualcomm, not too much activity on it for today. We do have this big money print for 2027, 170. They're in the money at this point. They've already made money off of this one, actually. It's already gone up about $8 from there. So Qualcomm's run up for this earnings so far, but a lot of calls and puts have been sold against. So that one's a little bit indeterminate on the WaveX side of things. Qualcomm was one of the newest additions to our, open AI and the whole, what we call the AI circle jerk. Gone up, it's come right back down. It's basically right in between the two resistance and support lines that I've drawn. So if we're able to break up above this, I do think it's going to come up toward right around 200. But I will point out, how many of these have you seen? We see and we hear some great news about them signing some great deal with Nvidia, with OpenAI, etc. Shoots up like crazy. Profits are taken and immediately it comes right back down. Right? Oracle is one of the prime examples of it. Oracle has completely filled that exact gap. Man, the chart right here is basically on point. Didn't go up as high as I would have thought it would here, but it did come right down and filled the rest of this gap that we're at. So now real decisions will be made for Oracle whether or not we continue to see it go back up, or if this was just the last blow off top, final rally. Keep in mind, Oracle was one of the poster childs for the entire .com crash in terms of, at the end of the day, Oracle was severely overvalued, and we're starting to see hints of that again in terms of this AI bubble. Let's see, ARM. I like ARM, I'll be honest. I think ARM still has a lot of room to go up. If I were to make a guess on any of these, I would probably say ARM is the one that might be, most poised to head on up from. It's got a lot of potential, and it is exactly in this pattern that I've drawn for Wyckoff reaccumulation. ARM was also one of the ones that first actually solidified what STAX AI was doing for us. We, at one point in the beginning of when we first released STAX, saw a ton of ARM calls. I think they were for like 2026 actually. They were buying leaps for these before this first earnings call came out, and that's where we saw this shoot up from about $75 or so and shot up to about 164. Definitely some sweet gains that we saw and that we made from those ones. Even a single contract, worth a few $100 would have came back worth a few thousand at the end of it. But the pattern here really does make me think that this is headed up higher in time. I would definitely look to buy some time on it, or if you want, go for those. Just go for stock. ARM is in the realm of semiconductors, and they are technology that is very, very much necessary and needed for the industry. We do have a lot of puts that have been sold. Calls are not exactly on the positive up here either, though. So that's, again, a little bit of a mixed signal on WaveX. And I will say these puts that have been taken out, there is a possibility we could see this drop back down to a little around 150 before we see the move up. It's actually kind of interesting. We haven't seen too much buying here, but we do down over here, back in the middle of last month, October 13th, we saw a lot of these ARM calls being bought. So this could be the hint that something is coming up with it. I do believe that at this point, was that before or after the news that they had with OpenAI and Nvidia? I have to double check. But yeah, I had made a prediction a little bit ago about how ARM was one of the next ones to potentially come up with a deal to join that, so-called circle jerk, and it actually played out. Like the next day after I had made that prediction. So all right, we got 5 minutes till we see these earning calls. Let's pull up Figma just to see. Figma, you guys have to understand, a lot of these IPOs are just going to be traps for retail. Figma had some crazy run up during their IPO. Everybody wanted to get in on it, and now it's back to like $50 a stock. So we see a little bit of bullishness here. 52, which isn't too far out. And this one's a little bit nuts, aiming for $75. So yeah, look at this chart, guys. Man, we see Figma IPO. I remember everybody talking about how you need to buy this stock at 150, and look at that. From there, it's come all the way back down. Yeah.
By the way, one thing to note is since about 129 today, Figma sold off about 1.5 million in calls and offloaded 1.5. On that flip that occurred, we basically saw 1.5 million on WaveX get sold off in Figma calls today. So just keep that in mind going into an earnings on a stock that's $44 a share. So
Well, not only that, if you go take a look at the numbers for it, Figma PE ratio right now is set at 256.
yeah.
So that's severely overvalued at this point. So they still got to prove themselves. You know, it's not to say that they can't be worth something down the line, but they still have to prove themselves. And you know, they're playing with the big boys now, and that's
Wasn't Palantir like 600x or something like that for this last one?
Well,
So
hey, I was looking at this. What are the crazy overvaluations right now? Look at Intel. Intel's at 2,841.
yeah, well, you want to know why? Because their biggest annual recurring revenue driver is costing them over $10 billion right now a year. So go ahead, justify that.
Palantir was at 600 or so. Now it's down to 490. Now that it's dropped quite a bit. Michael Burry did, you know, the guy that is featured in the movie The Big Short, took shorts against Palantir and took shorts against Nvidia. So keep that in mind. You know, the most famous bear of them all, you know, has been saying that we are in a bubble and that ultimately these stocks are going to come back down. But you'll have to keep in mind too, he's been wrong quite a bit as well. But at the end of the day, I mean, his Scion Capital Management is, you know, they're still profitable. He makes good money for them. He's going to manage his risk. But at the end of the day, we do see a lot of these big names that have run up super hard are starting to come back down to earth. So just keep that in mind.
He said on Twitter, don't follow his trades because you may know when he enters something, but you'll never know when he exits.
SPY is starting to come down just a little bit from where we went up higher today. I still think we're coming down overall for the markets. And you can think too, there's the whole thing of how, you know, buy the rumor, sell the news. I mean, I would even say once the government shutdown is over, that actually might be bad news for everybody and bad news for the markets. My thought here is the fact that if they do come to some sort of agreement for the government shutdown, that basically means all the data that we've been suppressing, you know, jobs numbers, CPI, PPI, all that stuff, that's going to come back on the table. And, you know, my prediction and my thoughts are just that they're not good right now. There's a reason why we don't want that. They didn't want that data to be released. Man, SPY is dropping off a cliff right here.
Well, what's wild too, Eric, is we just saw SPY puts on WaveX. I think about 60 million in puts was just sold off, like in the last minute. By the way, so that shows you. By the way, that shows you guys what is a hedge and what is actual positioning. If you see 60 million being offloaded towards market close, then typically that's an indicator that those were short-term hedges that they're probably going to get out of. By the way, Snap just recovered that 722. It's back up to 732 at close, by the way, which is only like 3 cents away from that sell-off point, I think.
No, now it's time to watch. All we can do. We're not here to move the markets ourselves. We're just here to watch and make our own predictions and make our own positions.
No way. I'm here to manipulate the markets. I don't know what you're talking about. I don't know if you know, but I finally got coaxed into making a personal Twitter account.
Yeah, I saw that.
Yeah. So Ivy Reaper, that's my whole thing is when fear sets in, that's when we collect money.
Oh, real quick too, I forgot to talk about this since we're focused on the earnings. The dollar index is starting to rise, guys. So, if you guys have taken our course or understand how these markets work, the dollar index or the valuation of the US dollar back at 100, you got to keep in mind too that this is an inverse relationship with the stock market and with asset prices. So you can understand that from the beginning of the year, the US dollar has dropped over what, 12, almost 13% from the top to the bottom from the beginning of the year. But from here, that's been very much correlated to the rise in asset prices and in the stock market. So we definitely saw markets continue to run up, and a lot of that had to do with the fact that the dollar was losing value. We have started to see it come back. Obviously, it doesn't move in a straight line. It's going to zigzag its way up or down. And if we are going to break up above, I'd say 130 cents, right, then we have the possibility of coming back to 101, 102. And same with gold, GLD, gold as well, has relaxed back down from where it hit those highs. So just keep in mind too that right now, the dollar is gaining a little bit of strength. It definitely hasn't recovered completely from where it was, but at the end of the day, this could also be contributing to a bit of the stocks coming back down just a bit. Yeah, it's not. You have to remember the inverse relationship that I'm telling you isn't a direct one-to-one relationship, but it does have effects. They do have effects that correlate to each other, and just keep that in mind.
And it's nice because like on Twitch, we have so many different types of traders where like people understand the relationship between the dollar index better than like I might, for example. So they'll give us like a key level to look out for SPY to potentially reject off of, or where we can see some weakness in the market. So I'm still learning about that stuff too, to be honest. Like I think the closest thing I have for something to look at as an inverse relationship is VIX.
Mm-hmm.
And understanding like, oh, well, when VIX goes to cover this gap, we could see a bounce and then SPY might see a mini sell-off here. Today we were able to scalp SPY calls for like 100%, and we got in a little bit later than expected, but it's small things like that. And that's why it's fun kind of trading with like not only against yourself, but with a community, because it's not like speaking into an echo chamber. You have like real life feedback with maybe a 5-second delay, depending on your stream latency and buffering.
Oh wow! Look at that lift candle.
Oh.
Oh, look at that lift candle. Jeez.
I said my prediction for lift was it needs some kind of it's at this point where it's like a battle for partnerships basically. So unless it announces some like crazy partnership deal, then I wasn't expecting like a big upward move from it, because it is a consumer facing stock. If you look at like, okay, do we have people booking rides with us more often than not? I feel like Snap is going to be a 15er.
Yeah, it should be. Or 10 is where it's at on TradingView.
Oh, okay.
As always, I gotta ask you guys, go ahead hit that like button for us. We're always on here every Wednesday doing either charts and watching the flow. Sometimes, depending on the week, we'll be doing earnings reports and earnings watches, just like we're doing today.
Watch party.
Let me know where you guys are from. If you are here with STAX, if you guys are here with TraderLink, or maybe just found us through Twitter or some of the other social media. Let us know. Okay. Lift revenue. Why not loading? Lift revenue, I think, barely missed.
Ooh, I think
But
Snap might be.
I have a feeling Snap, like, there's a lot of things on the table with Snap that could lead, very much could lead to the beat.
Well, did
Just
you see the article from yesterday?
No.
So Snap Inc. faces slow revenue growth. That it's already, that's like when T-Mobile's CEO came out and said, hey, we have customers dropping off left and right like a week before they had to report earnings.
Mm-hmm.
And they fell off a cliff for like a day, but then recovered and then like mooned out for like 2 days straight. It was wild.
Robinhood
Looks like I was
dropping.
right on Hood.
ARM shot up and then came right back down. We'll see what the reaction truly ends up being. Lyft is down about 4%, 5% so far.
I mean, on Hood, you're just betting on a company that came out and said 80% of its platform is written by AI code bots. So I'm not saying there's anything wrong with that, but if I'm making a $10,000 trade on your platform, I'd like some real engineers on the back end there that can fix things. Not a cloud expert.
Hood's down 4.5%. ARM is up 2.5, almost 3%, but it's shot up and came right back down. Lyft is down 2.2% so far, but it looks a little bit indecisive so far. Snap should report in about a minute.
Ooh, Snap. With a nice little gap up on the minute.
Oh, there we go. App's going up. App is up 5, almost 6%. Snap up first. Up.
Ooh.
11%. Is it going to hold is the question. There we go. There we go.
Up 12%.
I need to refrain from saying anything because I've had times where I say something a little too early and it reverses. So keep it going. 12%.
Beat revenue. Ooh, wow. They beat revenue estimates on ad boost, unveils deal with Perplexity AI.
Yeah, there we go.
That's what it needed.
Leadership finally doing what they need to. Look at that candle, guys.
Wow. Wow, wow, wow.
All right, baby.
I mean, $10 is very much in play because that's where most of the calls are being sold at for this week, mind you. So that means there's open interest that's expecting it to move to $10 if everything comes out the way it should. Or at least that's how I look at when I see calls being sold. That's like the resistance point.
Up 16% right now, guys. Boom. Well, that feels good. That feels good.
I feel better about my longs. I took some low risk shorts for next week to hedge for the June that I'm in for 2026, and I was
Yeah.
just like, okay, so like worst case scenario, it's short term insurance. Might as well practice what I preach, which is funds buying. I mean, granted, it cost me I think $40 for my position, so really not risking that much with it going to zero. But if I was right, then I protect some of my downside exposure on my longs and can just average down on those if I needed to.
Yep.
But honestly, I'm not even going to start looking at these probably till March, April of next year.
Here, we'll add our alerts for this. See where it goes by tomorrow. Yeah, definitely want to see if we can hit 9. That'd be beautiful.
Ooh, app came back down a little bit.
Lift is now down a bit more. Lift is down 5%. App's still up though.
No, I know. It's just that whole candle almost got bought out though.
Oh, that's good. Got the alert already for it moving up higher. Put it closer to 9.
Hood looks like I feel like Hood is gonna recover most of that loss off their conference call. Because Vlad, if it's one thing he knows how to do, it's how to like lull investors to sleep, but still make them bullish somehow. Good shit, Snapchat. Yeah, appreciate that. Appreciate having you around, GQ. I think you're close to like a 20-day streak at this point for showing up to streams.
Yeah, keep giving me that alert. 890, 22%. Another thing too I want to point out. So this Perplexity AI thing is a great announcement. The other announcement that they have during their Snapchat Spectacles event, they mentioned somebody asked them if they're gonna start to try to build their the circuit boards and what they need for their glasses. Are they gonna get somebody to create something custom for them? And the CEO basically did his best to avoid it, but said, "Yeah, we're looking into it." So ultimately, that's going to be something that ends up, you know, leading to another partnership with another, with either a manufacturer or a chip designer. Something is on the line with it, and so that's what you got to keep in mind. Is once that does happen, yeah, we'll see this continue to go up. This is our first, right? Keep in mind, I've had this charted out for you guys. I mean, I'm happy to see it finally play out. We're back to where we were before this huge, this entire consolidation and drop. Give it a little bit more time. This is definitely our first, what, not necessarily a sign of strength, but I definitely expect the volume to uptick heavily over here. We could very likely see ourselves over 9 by tomorrow, and then we'll start to see them move up higher and higher from there. So, what were the signs? We had STAX AI in on this pretty heavy, all the way back here, buying for those down the line. The research that we did, all the charting that we've done, being patient with this was something that I kept telling you guys to be careful with, and to trust in that chart, trust in the research and everything that's been happening. It's always good to have some fear alongside with it too. I will say there, I'm at no point was I saying this is guaranteed to go up. I told you right before this earnings call as well, hey, there is a possibility this could still come down a little bit lower. but there's a good solid chance it'll get snatched up and continue up from there. But you know, my one of my worries is just that the CEO and their stewardship, you know, the people leading the boat, have been so focused on the Snapchat spectacles idea for so long. It feels as if like it's gotten stagnant, but they're finally on the path to making that a reality. And so this move today, man, we're looking at 23% to the upside right now. So if it can break above this $9 and what was this one, $9.28, that's the next mark that we're looking at. We break up above that, we're golden and up higher. So this wasn't just a snap with a 3 from downtown. This was a buzzer beater leaning out of bounds from like 3/4 court. Because, you know, they are down at near their all-time lows in this situation, or at least, you know, 52-week lows and such. But it's moving 26% right now. Yeah, their quarterly earnings, 11 cents, beating their expectations.
Let's go, Lesbos. We're like the WNBA team that had fans show up finally. The women decided to pick up their end of the couch finally. Jesus.
I saw a stat that said Snapchat has missed 11 out of their last 12 earnings.
Yeah, I mean, haven't they also been reporting damn near? Oh, whoa. They're also going to repurchase up to 500 million of common stock.
There we go.
That is really good.
Rebound in their ad business. You know, Max brought this up, was that they screwed up on the way that they were charging for ads, and that was priced into the last earnings. So now that's back on the table. That's fixed up a lot of what they were missing. So
and if you guys have been here for our streams, anytime anyone brings up Snapchat, what is the only thing I talk about? They need to fix their ad business before any of this other stuff matters, because that is their, outside of partnerships, that is their biggest internal revenue source, is advertising. So until they fix that, which it seems like they did, it was not, for me, that's a big question, because that's a huge lift. But again, that's my own personal bias. So it varies company to company, but on average, it takes about like 18 months to get that kind of thing straightened out. So that's why I was a little more bearish on it. I do talk to eRoo. We talk damn near every day.
We talk all the time.
And he agreed with me. He was like, yeah, they do need to fix their ad business before we see the aggressive move that we just saw today, basically. Because I said that's the one thing that I feel like was stopping them from making this type of movement, was like, once they get their ad thing off, it's kind of doors off, and they just don't need to fuck up another spectacles event.
Yeah, that event was a fucking snooze fest.
God, I think we both almost fell asleep on stream watching that thing. It was almost as bad as Donald Trump today, to the point where people in the chat were asking, like, what is he supposed to be talking about again? Because he went from talking about his granddaughter telling him she gets straight A's to ending a war out in the Middle East, like all in the span of 2 minutes. So
the earnings live updates, I pay for TradingView for the live tick, so you know, I think it's like $15 a month for, I think, just mostly NASDAQ or the US, all the US ones. And then generally what will happen, as soon as news does come in, it will show up under this lightning bolt down here, where you can click on that to see what the new news happens to be, especially during earnings. The other thing I would just do is you can always go search, put the $sign, put the ticker into Twitter, and Twitter tends to be pretty good. You can filter by top, or you can usually filter by what's the latest the latest news, and usually you'll get stuff, you know, right away as soon as it's reported. Man, that feels good. Snapchat. That feels good. Like, my position's been down, but the entire position should be recovered by tomorrow. Boom, $9. Need it to hold 9. Get it to 950 by the end of the week.
Dude, they're actually close to being profitable.
Yeah.
To give you perspective, Rivian had a 6 cents per share loss around that area. And
Come on,
I want to
push.
say
Push, push.
Q3 of in Q3 of 2024.
20...
This year, Rivian reported a EPS positive for the first time in their earnings report back in June. So Snap could be on that same trajectory, or we see a positive EPS from them coming by what, probably like May of next year. Hey, I love to hear it, DK. I better hear about you bragging about all that shit on stream tomorrow too.
By the way, if you didn't know, Derek is one of my best buds from when we grew up in the Bay together. So he's actually one of my was one of my groomsmen at my wedding.
What?
Yeah. So
he's like one of my most frequent viewers on Twitch.
Yep. He's a good guy. Fucking love that dude.
Someone said in the Discord, OF models came through for Snapchat.
Ooh, Lyft is back up. Lyft came all the way down and started to come back up.
Oh, wow.
I like it.
It's about to recover that whole top wick from its after hours high.
Yep.
2055.
Get
my
it.
My big resistance point on Lyft is 2212. And it has a top of a demand zone point at about 2695.
Duolingo. Hey, I drew out this head and shoulders pattern for you guys, man. I drew out this head and shoulders pattern saying that if it doesn't hold this, it's going down. It's going down hard. It's down 20% after hours. Oof. Hey, the TA doesn't lie, man. My technical analysis, my charts are, when they're on point, they're on point. I admit I miss every now and then, but you know, even Steph Curry misses his threes I saw him airball one last night.
Hey, I mean, Steph Curry's the best in the world, and his wife still isn't happy and wants to be wanted by other men. So he hit a 4-pointer and still misses threes here and there. Let's be honest.
Ooh, DoorDash down 16%. How come I didn't see that they're reporting today? How come I didn't check their? Yeah, my bad. Would have checked in on it. Although I will say I'm a little bit biased. One of my good buddies works at DoorDash right now, so working on the delivery robots. Well, I will say I'm just glad the one that everybody's been waiting on. Glad my thesis played out the way that I had everything. You know, I had it analyzed. Happy Lyft is also making a comeback right now too. Lyft is back up. Yeah. Get it. Snapchat can hold about a 20 to 25% move. It's golden moving into the next couple weeks.
Yeah.
My plan for it though is I'm still gonna hold my long-term positions for Snapchat. My November position, I'm very possibly going to take some profits on that one, and then very likely look at either rolling it out to some of the other, further out, or I'm just going to take those profits and sit on them, use them for something else. But again, man, this was long awaited. One of my positions for Snapchat was down like 50 or 60%, but I'm still holding on to it. I definitely think Snapchat's probably going to sell off a bit tomorrow for profit taken. I don't think it's going to hold up all the way, hold up all the way to 25% the entire way. I mean, we could very possibly see something announced during their earnings call that pushes it up a little bit more. But, you know, we'll have to wait and see. There's no guarantee it'll hold, but we just got to wait till the morning to see what the market decides. There's been a lot of hate for Snapchat overall, but I think we're gonna start to see the turning point now. Yeah, holding above 9 is already a good sign. So that's kind of where you want it to. Yes, $10 and higher is definitely in play. It might. I would say don't necessarily expect it to happen by Friday. I would say once Friday is over, I think next week or the week after we'll probably see the bigger moves start to come. But this is a great, like, if you're familiar with Elliott wave theory, this is a great start to wave 3. Right? We have wave 1. Technically this is wave 2 all the way to the bottom. All right, we had a huge bunch of chop around here. Now we see wave 3. Wave 3 is usually going to be the longest wave. It usually is going to be the one where the majority of your profits will come from. But we'll see wave 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 again happen somewhere in here. So, right, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 is kind of what I would expect. Now it could. Right now, $13 is just my first target for it. I do think that we could head up all the way up to about 15 or higher. Question again, as always, is going to be when does that happen? How long does it take for that to happen? So, put that in blue. Ooh, I should check my heart rate, see if it spiked at all during Snapchat. It's one of my biggest positions I've taken. So, but again, everything I had aligned with it. And I will also say, today, seeing Snapchat, seeing the calls on Wave X start to exceed. Here, let me pull this up real quick for you guys too. Take a look at this. Right, we saw calls break up above, came back down, but near the end of the day, right before close, it really started to shoot up higher. And that's again, little bits of confirmation. I mean, again, you could call it confirmation bias at this point, just because I am bullish on it. But seeing that really aligns with the direction that I was looking at too. So these guys right here, this $8 strike, think of it this way: they got in at 35 cents. Right now, if it holds at $9, these 35-cent calls are going to be worth at least $1, so they would have basically tripled, almost tripled. Company announced Perplexity AI will pay the social media company $400 million over a year to integrate into artificial intelligence startup search features into Snapchat. Man, so they're finally understanding how to monetize their position. That's basically it. Took them a while, but hey, I'm happy to see it. All right. Let's real quick. Let me peek over. What else do we have? QBTS tomorrow. VST. Datadog. Moderna. And then we got Trade Desk afterwards. I want to say I'm bullish on Moderna. And it's just the chart looks like it should start to recover soon. I've shown you guys the whole market cycle. Moderna is at that point where it should start to come back. Oh, it's beat up. It's all the way down here. Could it go lower? I mean, yeah, but there's more of a possibility of it headed up now that we're starting to see more and more volume come back in too. So this is all before before market open. QBTS. Man, I thought that other one was bad. Look at their margin. Negative 5,406. So, I mean, Ion Q today. Ooh, Ion Q is up after hours. Up 2.8, 2.7%. Even though, oh my god, they had an earnings miss. Their EPS is 713% lower than expectation. I dare anybody to report to their superiors at their job that they missed their expectations by 700%. Oh my god. What else? I think the one everybody's waiting on is just TTD for tomorrow. TTD's been beat up. I trust in what Ducky's got charted. Another thing as well is that if this is wave 1, this is wave 2, we got wave 3 coming soon. Oh, I need to chart this out bigger. One, two, five. We'll see how high it goes, but wave 4 can be one of the biggest corrections, and then we'll see wave 5. So I think TTD's set up. There's been a lot of bad news against it recently too, but we'll be okay. All right. Anybody got anything else they want me to look over? I'm hoping everybody's happy with what they did with Snapchat. I'm sure we'll be watching it closely throughout the rest of the night, and some of you guys will probably wake up nice and early tomorrow. Make sure you set your alarm. There will be profit taking in the morning, but I will also say, with a move this big, oftentimes the next day or the day after you will probably see another small move up, or at least another bit of money flowing into it, because you got to keep in mind too, what Elliott wave theory basically is that it's people flooding to the market because there's news, there's something bigger that they want to get into. And now that Snapchat is showing, you know, all this good news about what they're about to do, you're going to start to see more investors come toward it too. Okay. And it's got to break over this 928, because that's our last resistance. That's the last pop that we saw.
Elf Cosmetics.
Dutch Bros. Let's see.
Ooh.
Up.
Elf just had a Lululemon size meltdown.
Ooh, yeah, that's ugly.
117 to 85. Ouch. Well, if you guys have significant others, go buy her some Elf cosmetic wear, because that shit's about to be on sale.
Alright, if you guys are in Snapchat, please go ahead and tag us on any social media posts you do make. Go ahead and post it in the club profits for us. I know we've been waiting on this one. Definitely been long awaited, but happy to see it play out in our favor in the way that we had charted, alongside with the thesis that we put together for you guys. I've got a crying child over on the side, so I'm gonna go take care of daddy duties. But again, always happy to be here for you guys. If you guys are not already in our Discord or using the STAX platform, there is a code down below in the description box below and the link to our membership page. eRoo loves STAX because I do. 20% off for any sort of STAX membership. You also have a bunch of links down there. You've got Max's YouTube. You've got his Substack. For the next one, I'll also make sure to add. You can go ahead, Max. Type into the chat your Twitter. Yeah, your Twitter.
That you the new Twitter. Yeah.
We're all over the place on social media. Hopefully, that's how some of you guys found us. But again, make sure you hit subscribe. Make sure you follow us. We're always doing our best to be active out there as well. We'll be live back in our Discord tomorrow. We are working on... We did record yesterday's Discord live. Trying to figure out how we can best post it for you guys in an efficient manner. Max and I are working on that, but we should be able to get you guys the Discord lives. Obviously, it's going to be after the fact. It's going to be after market close. So obviously, if you are a part of our Discord, you will have an advantage over the others. Hope you guys enjoyed today. Hopefully you guys in Snapchat tomorrow, send me a DM. Go ahead, post in the club profits, etc. But after today's earnings report, I've got high hopes for where Snapchat is headed. We just got, again, just like with today's earnings, we have to be patient with some of it. But hope you guys enjoyed today's show. We will see you guys in the next one, and we'll awaiting all those Snapchat profits tomorrow. All right, have a good one, you guys. Catch you later.